Well, hello and happy Friday to everybody out there. Thank you for being with us. I'm excited to introduce you to our special guest here in just a couple of minutes. But I also want to take a second and I want to give God some glory. And I want to thank each one of you that may be watching this later tonight, the next few days, the next few weeks. We had something astounding happen just 48 hours ago. And just to give you a little context of what I'm going to talk about is I launched this group 7 months ago yesterday. And the reason I launched it was because I've been doing some deep mindset work, maybe the last 18 months or so. And this word unworthy kept popping up in my mindset work. Not a word you want to come up in trying to obtain healthy mindset. However, you have to deal with the reality before you can move on to healthy. And so I was like, gosh, that's a lie. It's not even true. And I've been buying that for 55 years. I'm like, no, done. So I picked up some tools and I started beating what I call the border bullies in my head. And I said, you know what? It's kind of like when you buy a new car and then you see that car all over the place. I'm like, I'm seeing people struggle with this all over the place. Lack of self-worth, lack of self-love, um, imposter syndrome, you name it, that whole umbrella. I was seeing it everywhere. And I was like, I got to go back into the fire and help people and do my part. And that's what this became, was me doing my small part. And you have resonated with it to the tune of 10,000 people have now joined this. I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled, and I know God's doing the heavy lifting in that. So I want to give praise to where it goes, but I do say thank you to you, because in a lot of these groups, people drop out left and right. You guys don't leave, and I don't want you to leave. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Even if you just catch an interview here and there, you catch a replay here and there, it's appreciated. We do it for our guest and we do it for you. So I just wanted to say thank you. Okay. Let's move on to our special guest because that's why we're here today, right? I want to tell you about Heidi Black, who I just met online, maybe not right after the new year, maybe somewhere in there. And we've talked here and there online, and then I met her, maybe met her and her husband maybe 10 days ago, 14 days ago, something like that. And I love what they're doing in the kingdom of God. With all that being said, let me tell you a little bit about Heidi. Heidi Black is a purpose driven leader anchored in faith, helping high performing individuals build aligned, intentional, and sustainable lives where values, relationships, physical vitality, and financial stewardship work together. Grounded in lived experiences, Heidi leads through motivation, education, and transformation, guiding others from feeling stretched or stuck into clarity, momentum, and growth. She serves on the presidential leadership team of an international European based lifestyle company and is a two-time co author on women in leadership. Heidi is also the CEO and co owner of High Performance Restoration, a certified woman owned Texas based company working alongside her husband of 25 years. Through her leadership and platform, Heidi partners with growth minded leaders ready to expand what's possible without sacrificing what matters most. Heidi, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Hey, amen. Good afternoon or good evening, good morning, depending on when folks are tuning in. Thank you for having me on. It's really an honor. I love what you're doing and congratulations on 10,000. I mean, that's significant. I
Well,
love what you're doing here.
I thank you so much, Heidi. I'll tell you a quick story, and then we'll get into what you're doing for sure. I was at an event in Dallas, not terribly far from where you live, I don't think. And I was updating my speaker reel, which I'm also doing later next week. I come to Dallas a couple times a year, and I had built the outline for the group and the colors and the logos and all that stuff, but I didn't have a welcome video, didn't have the rules yet. It wasn't quite ready to launch. And I turned off my phone it was my turn to go up and speak. Got done, was, sat down a little bit later and I turned on my phone and Facebook had invited 1,700 people to the group without my knowing. And I was like trying to get some of it back. And I was like, you know what? God's going to do what God's going to do. And I officially got all the rest done and launched it about 10 days later. But, when it's time, it's time. So I appreciate the words of encouragement. But Heidi, one of the tremendous blessings of the group growing is I'm starting to meet people in different parts of the world. Different people around the world are watching. Tell people exactly where you are in the States.
Okay, so I currently reside in Frisco, Texas, which is just about 30 minutes north of Dallas. As you mentioned, been married 25 years. We have two teenage boys, 16 and 17, and they are Austin and Nolan, which are very much Texas names. So we're from the Northwest originally. People would always ask, "Are you from Texas?" And we'd never been to Texas. It was just, a funny God wink that Austin, Texas, and Nolan Ryan are very much Texas names. But our boys are, I mean, they're raised from 3 and 4 years old here in Texas, and we love living here.
That's so good. I love that. So your husband is Brad, right?
Right?
And you guys have been married 25 years. Is that what I read?
That's correct. Yes.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
By the grace of God, as I've shared bits about our story, yeah, it literally is a miracle that we're married.
Yeah.
And we don't only like each other, we love each other and we like each other. That's, saying a lot.
Saying that yes, like and love is a tremendous blessing for sure. I
Sometimes we
love
don't
it.
always like it. It was funny, just even today earlier, there was a little miscommunication and we just had a little bit of and then, but it didn't last long. We talked through it and, hey, I'm sorry. I was too intense and moving on. Just, yeah,
Well,
always.
one of the greatest lessons that I learned in my marriage was, without going too deep into this, was the speaker listener technique.
Mm-hmm.
And it essentially teaches you how to, I won't even use the word fight fair because I'm not a big fan of that term, but how to disagree fairly.
Yes.
And
Yes. Oh
it
gosh.
sounds like you guys have learned how to do that. So
We're very different, which is not uncommon for couples, right? We're wired, communicate everything very differently. But it wasn't until actually about 10 years ago that I really began to honor Brad. So, I mean, 15 years in our marriage that the way that I spoke to him, sometimes just a lot of things were definitely not honoring. And when I really valued his strengths and realized, wow, we're really much stronger together, not trying to make him more like me. That's what I would do early on. Like, why can't you be more like me? Why can't you just smile and talk? And, but gosh, I cannot imagine being married to someone like myself. That would drive me nuts. So,
so you
and
have to trust that God knew what he was doing.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So tell me what you guys, and when I say you guys, could be you and Brad, could be you, Brad, Austin, and Nolan, the family. What do you guys like to do for fun?
So we're pretty active. Brad has a master's degree in exercise sports science. Like fitness has always been a thing for him, and it's been a journey for me. I really struggled with my weight, so we've been pretty active together. So when we can get out on the boat on the lake with our boys, that's probably one of our favorite things. Turn off our phones and just go chill on the lake. Um, Most months out of the year here in Texas, we can do that. Or traveling. We really love to travel. We took our boys to Dubai in September of last year, which I know right now maybe is not as safe to travel, but right there specifically. But we absolutely love to explore God's creation and just be outside, really.
Yeah, no, I love that for sure. So you said Frisco, which is about 30 miles north of Dallas. You have a business in Frisco, and I'm sure serving beyond that. But tell us a little more about the business and how you got involved in that, and tell us, what's the next steps with the business.
Yeah. So when Brad graduated college, he ended up going into sales and thought it was something part time that he'd just do for a little bit, but it was in the construction and home improvement industry. I had my real estate license back then. And so, I mean, how God wove all of this in when we moved to Texas 12 years ago, owning now a construction company was definitely not on our radar. And that's just, so 10 years ago, just as of 2/22, as of February 22nd, we're 10 years old as a company. And that's something that Brad and I birthed together, and really with the vision to be able to give more generously to the kingdom, to not only just have a team, but really develop people. And, one of the things in any industry, I think it happens that you hire people, you bring people in, you develop them, and then they leave and they kind of start their own thing. And it used to hurt when that would happen. But what we realized is that's what we're here for. We're here to multiply. We're here to develop and deploy people. So, ultimately, what used to hurt now, I'm grateful, and I look at that and say, you know what, that's pretty cool. We got to do that. So, working together is a whole other thing. Getting to work with your spouse, and that's been a whole new level of blessing. And we'll talk about just some of the hard things that we've worked through prior to starting our company, to where we were in a very good place when we started our company, and very intentional how we started that. So yes, I didn't even say specifically roofing, primarily residential and commercial, as well as window replacement. Those are our main trades. We do a lot of insurance work because it's hail country here. In fact, we have a hail storm potentially in the forecast tonight. So high performance restoration. If you're in the area and you need an inspection, we're happy to come out, tarpings, all of that. I mean, literally, it can be very scary right after a storm, especially if folks have never experienced that. Maybe they're new to the area, but definitely call a reputable contractor, because there will be a lot of people out there that don't know as much about what they should be doing, and it's very important. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, give us the name one more time.
High performance restoration.
Okay. And it's so true. Fortunately, I've only ever had to replace a roof one time, and it was about 7 years ago in another state. And yes, the scammers come and knocking from all over. So definitely make sure you get a insurance and bonded company and reputable. Check
Yes,
them out thoroughly, and we'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well when we're done.
absolutely.
I'd like to take you on a journey. I'd like to take you back to your senior year in high school.
Okay.
And I want to understand 18-year-old Heidi's mindset. Are you like excited that you're about to have that diploma in your hand? You've got the cap and gown, you're counting down the days, you're doing the long goodbye with the teachers and the classmates, and you're grabbing the, a lunch or a coffee or whatever you're doing. You're trying to get all the time in. Maybe you're going to a school in 3 short months away from graduation, maybe not. Are you excited, or are you, man, I like it here. I'm gonna miss this. I'm scared of what's going to happen out there in the real world after the stability of high
Hmm.
school, or somewhere in between? What was your mindset at that point?
Interesting. That's an interesting question. So, the world's changed a lot. That was 1998. And I actually hardly graduated high school because I did not apply myself. I don't know that I finished one book in all of high school. I had a few teachers who I still think of fondly, who just would say, Heidi, you're not applying yourself. You have so much potential. And I liked to socialize. I was in the jazz choir. I played soccer. I was kind of friends with multiple different groups, which was cool. I loved all the different groups of kids. And so, yeah, it was a social thing for me. And then I chose not to go to college. My grandfather was a dean of admissions for multiple different universities around the country. I'm the oldest grandchild, his number one. He still calls me his number one. He's 98 and still so sharp and so healthy. I love him. And
Wow.
when he learned that his number one was not going to go to college, that was kind of a big blow. But I just, frankly, at the time, I wasn't making the greatest choices. There was a little bit of a party scene going on, and I just felt like, gosh, why would I go to school? I'm just going to end up partying and wasting time and money. And to me, at the time, it wasn't exciting. The idea of college wasn't exciting. Being out of high school for sure was exciting to me. But what came next, when I was still 18 years, so I graduated. I was one of the younger. I didn't turn 18 until right after high school, and then it would have been, I don't know, less than a year later that I was still 18. I was working at an elementary school, just trying to figure things out. And I was a teacher's assistant. So nothing, too exciting, but I loved, I started, my hours were Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. It was a pretty cool schedule. And the librarian, she saw something in me. And in the teacher's lounge one day, she came up and said, Heidi, there's just something about you. I really want to encourage you to meet my daughter. I think that you would really enjoy meeting her. And come to find, she was the kind of the top regional person for a company back in the day called Party Light Candles. And they were a direct sales company. And that I was introduced through her to personal development and just so many things. And I started reading books of my own choosing, and from front to back, which was a miracle in and of itself. But she just taught me that I had things in me, including speaking in front of people. So suddenly I was doing 15 parties a month in people's homes, driving all over, at the time, Portland, Oregon. And just it birthed something in me, or it was just a really cool season because I could feel my mind just stretching. I was growing and recognizing skills in me that really I wasn't aware of. So that was the beginning of a journey of network marketing, of being an entrepreneur, of a growth mindset, of so many things that really set the trajectory for my life.
I was just saying this is fascinating, and I vaguely remember, maybe they're still around. Party Light Candles, are they still around?
Yeah. I don't know that they are. The wax, the 3 wick, we called it the baby candle. It literally would burn for 8 months. It slow burning, clean burning. Just anyway, it was great.
It does sound familiar. I was just saying this to somebody the other day. I don't know if I've interviewed anybody yet that went straight from high school or even college for that matter to entrepreneur waters. It sounds like it was close. So what were you doing at the school exactly?
I mean, I was a teacher's assistant for the special needs class. There were a few kids that I was responsible to make sure that they got where they needed to go. I mean, it was just I really enjoyed it. I love kids. I'm one of 7 children, and it was really a fun job. But yeah, but not my for sure not my long term play. It was just okay. What am I going to do? And just getting out on my own a little bit.
So you go from being this aide to entrepreneur waters pretty quick, it sounds like. And what did you love about it?
I loved that I could. Well, one thing I recognized quickly was working at the school. I would get my paycheck, which was cool, but I'd been working since I was 14 years old. I worked at, anyway, a variety of little odd jobs here and there. But I knew that I could only make as much as the time that I worked. And here I was earning these commissions based on if I had 15, 20 ladies at a party and they're all ordering product, and I'm calculating my commission and going, I have a little bit more control over this situation. That was really empowering. So, yeah. I mean, really, I didn't go back to teaching or assisting or anything after that. In fact, I met my husband when I was 19. Well, he wasn't my husband then, but and he had never had a girlfriend. He had made a very definite decision in his younger teen years that he was going to court a girl, and he was going to kind of do it the old fashioned way. So when we met through our college group at our church. And this is along that same time I was in Party Light Candles, and I was driving around, and I was earning my commissions. And at the end of the school year, I didn't say I would be coming back to the school because I was making better money selling candles than I was, working 5 days a week at the school. And my husband, ironically, he was in college at the time, and he was selling Excel telecommunications out of his dorm room. So he was also kind of wired that way. That was a former network marketing company that is no more. Before we paid, we used to pay per minute, for a phone. Remember that?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
And, so, when we came together, we were both wired that way a little bit. And yeah, so when we started dating, we talked about, first of all, well, just real quickly, we met through our college group at church. We didn't date. We just hung out in the group, going to the beach, hanging out, just doing group hangouts, and just getting to watch and observe each other and see how we interact with other people, and just grew a respect and a liking for each other. That was just friendship. And then at the end of that summer, so for several months that happened, he was going to go back to school, and he and I both realized there might be something here. And so he said, look, I really like you. I think you like me. But if you're going to be my girlfriend, it would be for the purpose of us getting married. I want to court you. And that's where I'd never heard that term. And I'm like, you want to what me? Like, I don't know. And he explained what that meant. But, and I saw something in him that I wanted in my life. There was just a strength and a steadiness and his love for the Lord that even at barely 19 years old, I wanted in my life. And so, yeah, we got engaged and we were married by the time we were 20, which is now a little over 25 years ago.
Shout out to Brad for doing it God's way. Big
Uh-huh.
shout out to Brad.
He's one of
That
a kind.
Yeah, that no, that's awesome. I wish I could say I did it all that way because I wasn't a Christian yet when I met my wife to be. I did know a little like Brad though. I was like, I took her off the market really quick. And then it took me a while to actually get to the altar. But yeah, when a guy knows, he knows. So I love that
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously you don't stay with Party Light forever. You get into some other endeavors along the way. Tell us a little bit about those early endeavors.
Yeah. Well, can you hear the dogs barking in the background? I apologize.
Usually you can't.
They're big. They're big labs. They sound so mean. Okay. I think someone's
You're,
riding their bicycle by. It won't last long. I apologize.
you're totally good.
Okay. So I'm regrouping now. Yeah. Fast forward. I need this beeper. I should have brought the beeper in here. Okay. It'll be done in a sec. All right. So how did we move forward from Party Light Candles? What? So I really struggled with my weight growing up. So sorry.
You're
Jesus
totally
help
good.
us. Okay. I had really, okay. I know we're live, so I don't want to, sorry. One, please
You
hold.
go do it. Go do what
Maybe
you
do
gotta
a, do a commercial. I'll be right back.
do. You guys do not want me to sing to fill the void. I could try. I could do a little Elvis. Let's see how many are actually watching right now. Yeah, there's nobody currently watching. The joys of going live. You never it's like opening a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get when you go live.
Right. I know that's, you can't just say, please hold. Okay. All right. So
I was telling the viewers I could do a little Elvis, but they probably wouldn't want that. So
that's awesome. So, early married, Brad, funny story, funny, not funny, but I was really addicted to food. I had not a great relationship with food, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And that's actually a whole other conversation, maybe for another day. But um, I when every night before, like clockwork, he cannot go to bed without taking a shower. And so at that time, when it was time for him to go take his shower, I would go to the freezer door, I grab the ice cream, and just with the freezer door open, I would be eating out of the carton of ice cream. Like those were habits way back when, and just not healthy habits. And so he was very encouraging. He really, the way that he just helped me and encouraged me through all of that's really, really incredible story too. But I was introduced to a line of products that originally started to help me get a handle on that. And first it was Herbalife back in the day. We were with Herbalife, and we were young, and we were driving around in the middle of the night, putting corrugated signs on telephone poles, got pulled over by the state trooper in the middle of the night because, anyway, we got sued by the attorney general because we were running auto dialers and called people on the do not call list. There are so many stories over the years, I think, of when we were just learning and growing in network marketing. You just don't know what you don't know, but we were willing to do whatever and learn what we needed to learn. And yeah, so health and nutrition, that took me on that path. And then ultimately I aligned with Isogenics. And so I was with Isogenics for many years. That was one of the places I spent most of my time earlier on. And just had some great leadership there and great products and really got a handle on health. And that became a just woven into my story. So I was always drawn to health and nutrition for the most part over the years. That's what I've done until more recently. I'm not aligned with, there's just so many good products out there in network marketing, outside of network marketing, TikTok shop. It's kind of overwhelming. So anymore, we love, we have, I mean, our pantry's full and all the things. We're all about it. But leading with a product is just not my jam anymore in the health and nutrition space.
Gotcha. So what is it exactly you're doing now?
Yeah. So about 8 months ago, we have our traditional business. Brad and I were talking about creating a membership based subscription type of platform to create a more recurring type income, because in roofing, you sell it, you replace it, and you get paid and that's done. We didn't have any recurring income built into that. And so while we explored creating something actually for contractors, we were going to have a membership model, and ultimately realized we don't want to create another job for ourselves. And so a dear friend reached out, and I was kind of in a place of frustration. Really, I was leading a Bible study last spring, and just feeling like God was really nudging me that, Heidi, you're burying some talents I've put in you. You're playing small within the walls of high performance, and I'm ready for you to use your voice more. So even just being on here today, it's been so interesting, the opportunities that have presented themselves, the doors that have been opened since my yes 8 months ago to what I'm a part of now. And ultimately it's a European travel company, very established for the last 9 years. And they 4.8 rating with Trustpilot, just built a travel platform from the ground up. And it's incredible. It's wholesale travel direct to the suppliers. It's like nothing I'd seen before. And so the product itself is excellent. And then I saw an opportunity that the company was being launched in North America. And so I am a forerunner, a pioneer of bringing this company here to North America over the last 8 months. And it's been such a blessing financially, but also just, I love the team building. I love pouring into people, equipping, encouraging, training, leading, teaching people how to make more money and live a more fulfilled life. So yeah, and it's
So,
membership based. That's what it kind of came back to. Was it wasn't the product, where back in the day, okay, Steve, you got to order all your shakes, and then once you have enough shakes, you're saying, Heidi, I have enough, I'm going to put my order on hold. Well, when you put your order on hold, it puts my income on hold. This is membership based subscription with a digital product. So it's that recurring income, like your Audible, Netflix, all the monthly things that we have, services. So it's that digital recurring income that's more steady. And because of less overhead associated with physical products like shipping, handling, manufacturing, warehousing, all of it, there's more of a margin to pay out. So it's a very generous compensation as well. So
I can tell you're excited about it. Your face lit up that during that whole explanation. What's interesting about what you just said too, when you said yes, God opened some doors. And I'll be brief about this, but I had something happen that I said yes to back in late November, and it created, well, I'll go into it just so briefly. So I was invited to an event about 3 hours from here, and I was excited that I got invited to it because it was a lot of entrepreneurs, and it was a room I needed to be in. And so I was excited when the person invited me, and I knew exactly where it was because it was in my hometown. And I was like, okay, all right, cool. When I got off of that call, and those border bullies that I was talking about earlier about mindset, they kicked in. Oh, well, you really don't drive well at night. If your money's tight, you're gonna have to get a hotel if you do go, or you're gonna be driving back at 12:01 in the morning. You're not gonna know anybody in the room, even though that
Mhm.
person invited you. What if she's not even there? And it's such a reasonable ticket. He's gonna pitch hard. He's gonna have to make up the loss that he's, charging these 80 people X amount of dollar for. I mean, just all this stuff swirling, excuses. I started thinking of self-sabotage. Like
Mhm.
what I would have done in the past is I would have waited until I thought registration was probably full, and I would have gone online. I would have saw that it was full and said, I tried, but it was full. But really, I was just
Yeah.
scared to go. But I said yes. Speed up the story. I said yes, and I had a great time. And I actually knew three people there, as it turns out. I met a lot of new ones. Went back to my hotel, tell my wife and kids good night on the phone. I'm waiting for a call from a friend in California. Got the TV on low, kind of pre-packing, just chilling. And God gives me a keynote. What's on the other side of your yes? And
Mm,
that's what I'm giving in Dallas for my speaker reel next
very
week.
cool.
And it's the same thing. You said yes, and look at the doors that popped open. You never would have known if you
Oh,
hadn't said yes.
so many things. So yeah, absolutely. When we have that nudge, when we're obedient in that, it's powerful. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love that story. I look forward to hearing that. I don't know if you're going to share it or post it, but hear that keynote.
It's the small version of it. It'll only be a few minutes long because there's several of us doing our speaker reel that day. But yeah, it'll be out there eventually.
Very cool.
Um, so okay, so you've experienced the success at many different levels of entrepreneurship. You've got your own business there with Brad in Frisco. Got two kids that seem to be doing great. Y'all have fun together, happily married for 25 years. But
Well,
yeah, I know, and I'm sure you'll segue us into that. Um, but it's the marriage that really has a story of its own that impacted both your walk with Christ and your worthiness. Would that be accurate?
100%.
Please
Yes.
tell.
Yeah. So we kind of fast forwarded from back in the day to just more recently, but in the middle,
Yep.
when you say you've been married happily for 25 years, that would be a lie. uh, you know, yeah. So we did have our first 5 years of marriage really were kind of picture perfect. We were involved even in our local church. Brad was going to school. We were leaders in that young married group of that church. We had great mentors. A lot of things were going great. We had a lot of quality time together. We bought our first little house. We bought our first chocolate lab. We had a little garden in the backyard. I mean, it was really a very beautiful time. And then fast forward, Brad graduated from college and in 2005, and we decided we wanted to move back, be closer to family. So we left our community, we left everything we'd established there that was so great. And Brad ended up getting into sales, and I ended up getting my real estate license. And we just started to grow apart just slowly. And that I'll just try to get kind of to the point of it. Ultimately, uh, it's so subtle. I would say no one is immune to going from that place that was so beautiful and so solid to, by 2006 and 7, I had made some alignments in business. I started to travel a little bit, and I was naive to a lot of things, and I put myself in not great situations. And so with that, it opened the door to ultimately a relationship with an owner of a company that I was working with. And once that door was opened, it became a very slippery slope. And I will say too, back in that season, from when I said at 19, 20 years old, getting into personal development, I was so hungry to grow, so hungry to learn. And so for all those years, those first 5, 6, 7 years, I was just pouring in, and I was hiring coaches. And Brad and I never really went on a vacation. And we would always, if we were going to go away or do something or spend money, we were going to go listen to a speaker or go to some sort of a personal growth or development event. But one of the subtle things that happened in that time was who I started listening to and what I started reading. And there's a very fine line from, um, biblical truth to some very counterfeit information that really did a number on my thinking and on my identity. And I was not solid in who I was in the Lord. I was really allowing other people to tell me who I was. And so I ended up, in this relationship with another man. And that opened a door to a series really of the next, I'll say 7 years was me running from this door that I'd opened. And Brad, even when he saw it before that even happened, with just some of the kind of new age thinking and not I'm created in the image of God, but I am God, like really dangerous stuff. Brad was cautioning me because he could see a shift before any of this really played out. And like, no, I was very stubborn. I was very independent. I was like, no, I'm fine. I've got this. And ultimately, I remember an exercise a coach was doing at an event. Imagine your perfect day. You wake up, you open your eyes, and you turn to your partner in bed, and you wake up and you're so glad to see them, and the birds are chirping, and I turned and I looked, and the image of the person, it was literally just, it was like a blurred out non-face. It was not Brad. And there was something in me that was, it definitely led to a variety of things over the, like I said, I mean, it was about 7 years where I was in and out of relationships with multiple different men. I just had brokenness in me that, really, I, I was looking for just all these things that were outside of me to tell me who I was, and looking for validation, and just, and Brad, through it all, he, like you said, I mean, even his choice of how he courted me, and once he decides something, he's very intentional. He's just steadfast. In fact, our pastor calls him the anvil that people can beat their life out on, and he will not change. He's just that guy. He's just steadfast. And so in this season that I was hurting him a lot, he continued to speak, Heidi, like, this is not who you are. Like, just speaking truth, speaking my identity in Christ over me, and not like, this is what you're doing, but this is not who you are. I mean, he had in that season, the maturity enough to remove the emotion of it. I know it was breaking his heart. So there's, waking up numerous times, not knowing, I'd been blacked out, whether I was drugged, not knowing who I'd been with. There was a lot of, the Lord protected me. I mean, numerous times where I could have been dead or diseased or so many things. And through that, all that protection, whenever I even share the story, it's as if I'm talking about someone else, because I can't even fathom that now. But I lived that for quite a while. And I would be lying, using my friends to tell stories. It just created this whole web of lies, and then forgetting, like, well, what did I tell this person? And it was, and then it just became so
Mm-hmm.
heavy, so heavy. So fast forward to 2012, I was in Miami for actually a network marketing event, and just partying. It was such a toxic culture, that company at the time. And I came home from that event determined that I was going to leave Brad and our boys. Our boys were 1 and 2 years old at the time. And I told Brad, hey, guess what? You know what? I'm done. I'm going to go do my own thing. I want to go live in the world and just be able to do whatever I want to do with whoever I want to do it with. Just ugly, mean, bad situation. And Brad in that moment could have, because it had already been years of hell. Of we'd been through counseling, and he would think I was okay, and I would think I was okay, and then I would fall back into it. And I was like running from this version of me. And in that moment in 2012, he could have said, okay, you know what? Like, enough is enough. I can't handle this anymore. And he's told me since many times, and we've talked about it, but that definitely the Holy Spirit was just like, just stay, just hold. I mean, so he said, no, you're not leaving, and we're going to figure this out. And there'd been the other part to this too, that's so unique. And I would encourage, if someone who's listening is going through a similar circumstance, or they know someone who is, one thing, the gift Brad gave me was, he didn't uncover me to everyone. He actually kept it pretty private, because he was so much in faith about who we would be as a couple again, and who I would be when I came to, because he said he would talk to me and he could tell my eyes, like, Heidi's not home, somebody else is home. It was bad. And our sons were having night terrors. It was not a good season, but he was meeting for coffee with one of the few friends who knew that we were in a rough season. Our families didn't even know the hell that I was putting him through. And the friend said, Heidi really needs to meet a woman, Vicki Norris, out in Sherwood, Oregon. And Brad said, please meet with this woman. And I I'm sure I had a really bad attitude, arms crossed. I went and sat down with her and thought, fine, I'll meet with this lady. And literally, she put her hands out. I held her hands. She began to pray, and the Holy Spirit just broke me. I just began weeping, and my heart had been so hard prior to that. Uh, I I had no emotion. I was just cold. And that just began to break me. And I had hope for a moment of, okay, you know what? Maybe there's something here. Maybe this can be okay. Maybe I can be okay. And she ended up teaching a course. She said, oh, she gave me a few marching orders for toward healing. It was a process. But one of the things was a ministry called Sozo out of Bethel Church. Actually, they've been around their international ministry. And it's a prayer ministry. And it's really understanding the relationship, my relationship with God and with Jesus and with the Holy Spirit, and just hearing truth about who I am. And the person that's there just facilitated that, and it was just a beautiful. That was about a week after meeting with Vicky, and then fast forward, she taught a course called Biblical Entrepreneurship. Brad and I took it together, and as we've talked about, we're entrepreneurs. We thought, sure, that sounds really great. We want to learn more about what it is to be a biblical entrepreneur. And what that course ended up being was really our introduction to God's kingdom, really understanding God's kingdom and our part in it. Because prior to that, and part of what I would say kind of led me down the path of just a lot of poor choices and not knowing who was I didn't understand the significance that we have as part of God's kingdom here and now. When I would hear God's kingdom, I think heaven. And I think, well, when we die, we go to heaven and we're in God's kingdom. But no, like God's kingdom is here and now. We get to bring heaven to earth. Like that's why we're here. And so when we operate from that place, it's so much more powerful. There's authority in that. And I was not walking in authority prior to that. I was being manipulated and all the things. And it made for a really bad life. I was living this double life prior to that. In fact, like the counterfeit influencer, I got to contribute to a book, and I wrote about this whole circumstance. Really, we can be living in the counterfeit of who God created us to be. And that's what I was, on social media. I was a loving wife and mother and going to church and checking all the boxes. And in real life, behind the scenes, I was a big mess. So this course, Biblical Entrepreneurship, was really a turning point. Vicki Norris, she's significant to our family because of how she showed up and just was so obedient in that moment. And yeah, I mean, it was really a turning point.
Ooh wee. Wow. Not surprised that God intervened. Not surprised that he worked powerfully through Brad. Not surprised that he brought in somebody you didn't know. Um, God always does the heavy lifting in healing, but
Mm-hmm.
he often brings just the right people at the right time to help with it. I appreciate you sharing the story so vulnerably, and that's part of your huge part of your testimony now.
Yeah.
And I know, even though we didn't get too detailed, and there's no need to get too detailed, that sharing that publicly is really, really a challenge. And it takes a lot of prayer and a lot of healing to embrace it. And I don't even think I told you this when we met. I relate to it because my wife was 48 hours away from contemplating calling a divorce attorney.
Mm,
And God did the same. He
mm,
saved what we say is he not only saved our marriage. This was before we were Christians. This was the last thing, so to speak, that God was using to bring us to our knees to make Jesus
yes.
Lord. He not only saved our marriage, he saved our souls.
Yes.
And so I totally respect the courage it takes to tell the story. And you know, my wife, like Brad, said this isn't him. This isn't her.
Yeah.
And so it says a lot about the character of our spouses for sure.
Yes.
Um, man, it's remarkable. And I already know, I know that God's using your story, you and Brad, to help other people. I just know that's how it works.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I mean, and I'm grateful that's totally God. And the courage even to share it, it's that's something that once I got on the other side of all of this, and I'll just say too, in wrapping that up, because someone can hear that and go, oh, amazing. From there, everything was perfect. And, you know, we never, just like in our health, we don't get to stop exercising, working out, making good choices in our relationships. We don't get to just stop investing in, there's never a point in business that we just go, oh, we just coast. Nothing. Everything requires intentionality. But I will
Okay.
say, fast forward from 2012, and the way I would put it is there was a residue. There was a residue remaining that had to be dealt with once and for all. So even though there was significant healing and we came to a place of surrender and we made so many significant choices, God actually, during we were taking that course, biblical entrepreneurship, the Holy Spirit told Brad to quit his job. And he gave him a specific scripture. And it was just a really cool season because that hasn't really happened for Brad much in his life, and it was very clear. And he's a contemplator. He's not just a spontaneous guy. So when he came to me and he said, "I'm supposed to quit my job," I believed it and I trusted that because.
Wow.
And so we talked about it, we agreed about it, and that was part of this process. And so we boxed up everything, went and lived with his parents for 6 months as we were praying about our next, because we didn't know, we didn't have next steps. And that's where in that season, friends of ours who lived in Frisco, Texas said, hey guys, I know you're in the season of, praying about your next, because they knew more about they were a close inside couple who knew our story. And we came here to visit them in Frisco. They attended the church that is our home church and has been now for 12 years. And within a week, we decided, Brad and I both had total peace. We need to be here in Texas. And so Brad flew home, filled up a U-Haul. He took the little boys with him. They were 3 and 4 by this point. Fit whatever he could in a U-Haul. And that's all that we started over with 12 years ago, going on 13 years ago. And our chocolate lab, he brought our lab as well. And so they all rode back, 32 hours across the country with the boys and the dog and the stuff. And we started a new life here in Texas, going on 13 years ago. But really quickly, the residue. So all that beautiful healing, so many things happened. And there was still this little bit of this kind of nagging thing that I could feel this. It was an influence that I didn't like. And I could tell. And it was this kind of, anyway, I could give examples, but I won't spend a ton of time. What I will say is that I knew that there was still a little bit of an issue lingering with men, and with just this door was still not totally closed. And I just it wasn't like it had been, but it wasn't closed. And I had 2 spiritual moms, Vicky being one of them, who had been that angel really that showed up at that time for us. And then another woman. They did not know each other. They've never spoken prior and never met since. But in the same week, they called me and said, Heidi, as I've been praying about you and Brad, I just have to tell you that you're being sex trafficked by demons and you need to seek deliverance. And so confirmation in 1 week from 2 people that I trust very much. And I sought out a ministry here in Dallas and dealt with that once and for all. And I can say that I didn't know what I thought about deliverance prior to that. And it's not like in the movies, like you think about necessarily, but it was very real. And they have to announce themselves. And then we're able to understand this demon that was, it had to spell its name. It has to either say its name or spell its name. I know it sounds crazy. It was
Mm.
crazy to me too, but it was very real. And I spelled what I was hearing in my spirit to this woman, and she's writing it down in this book of all this list and what they're assigned to. And that specifically was assigned to for adultery. I mean, so that
Wow.
it was crazy. And I mean, literally since there's not been a draw, there's not been this pull, there's not been this influence, this just part of me that I couldn't control. I mean, it was for years. And so still, obviously, we've got to be wise. Like my husband and I, we don't
Yeah.
just go, I don't just go have dinner with another man. And, like clearly you got to have wisdom and boundaries and all of that. But that has not been a factor or an issue or anything since that deliverance. And that would have been actually beginning of 2015. So, I mean, it just kind of shows the process. It took a while for me really to get to the
Wow.
place, and Brad was extremely patient. So,
Describe your marriage now just using 3 words.
3 words.
I
Mm,
know it makes you think, doesn't it?
yeah. Well, I can say 3 words. I don't, it's picture of possibility. That actually gets me emotional because the last few months that has been coming up for me, that Brad and I, not that we've got it all figured out, not that, but we get to be a picture of possibility for others in our marriage, in our health. So, I mean, what we do together. So 5 days a week, we get up and we work out together. And I'm more fit right now at going on 46 years old than I was at 26 or even 16. Like, it's just been a journey for us of progressively just refining and fine tuning, not just in our health, but in our marriage and in our businesses and in our, just everything. So this is like, these are things that we fight for. We're very intentional. It's not easy. We get to choose what we do each day. And so picture of possibility is that thing like that's been coming up that just the Lord's been speaking to me. So those are the 3 words.
I love that picture possibility. I love that. So if folks wanted to learn more about you
Mhm.
and the businesses that you're involved with, where would they go to find you?
Yeah, you know what? Well, a couple of things. I'm actually updating my website, but HeidiBlack.com exists. I'll say there's more coming there. It's not the main source, but it's as far as social media, I'm pretty consistent on Instagram and Facebook. And I weave a lot of testimony and encouragement into that. That's my heart. So Meet Heidi Black is Instagram. That's my handle. Meet Heidi Black. And then Facebook is Heidi Black Pro. That's just what they gave me back in the day. I think those would be the main things. I'm working on, Brad and I are working on actually putting together a podcast together and other things. But for right now, those would be the main things. And if you follow me there, you'll learn about other things to come.
That's awesome. That podcast sounds exciting for sure. Um, yeah, and we'll put the social media links in the show notes for everybody to be able to find you there. This has been awesome. Heidi, what last words of encouragement would you leave our viewers, specifically somebody that may be watching that needs a little bit of hope today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've heard me share from the ugliness of what the things that you have been through have uniquely and are uniquely equipping you for really what you were created for, which can sound really tough to hear. But you were created with purpose inside of you. Your purpose is not somewhere outside of you that you need to go find. It's in you. And part of these hard things that we go through in life literally develop the the muscles inside and outside to be able to sustain the purpose that we carry. So just don't wish it away. Just, okay, what can I learn in this process? How can I grow through what I'm going through? How can I, take this into the next season? Because, we get down the road and realize, wow, I thought that was hard. Well, now this new season is harder in a new way, right? But it's developing you, uniquely equipping you, and there's never been and there will never be another you. So just honor, like, the purpose that God has put inside of you. There's so much more to come. Your story is not over yet.
So much more to come. I got to write that down. That's awesome. So much more to come. And it's true, right?
Yes.
Like, think about your story just a little over a decade ago.
Crazy.
It looked like it was over, or it looked like that version of it was certainly over, and God wasn't done yet. There was so much more to come. And look what he's done, and look what
And,
he's doing.
oh my gosh, in that too, be really mindful of the words that you're speaking, in the midst of your circumstance right now where maybe things aren't what you want. When we focus and we're thinking about and we're rehearsing what we don't want, we're going to continue to get more of that. So really get clear about what you do want and be speaking life, because our words literally carry life and death. And I mean, our words prophesy our future. So if you don't want what you have, stop speaking that. Start speaking what you do want.
And I'll 1,000% agree with that. And just add one little nuance, like the power of even those statements. You can still verbalize your reality, but don't end the thought and the words with that. Even though this relationship is a real challenge right now, I'm so grateful for what it's teaching me.
So good.
Even though our finances are really struggling right now, it's not going to be this way forever. You see how it's not denying the reality, but it's ending with something positive and hopeful. And it sounds like it's splitting hairs, but it's really not. It does feed into the whole mindset and behavior patterns that you're talking about. Heidi, this has been awesome. I want to thank you for sharing significant parts of your journey with us, being vulnerable, praising God, and letting Him continue to mold you and use you, and your husband for that matter, um, to do kingdom work here on earth. I so appreciate you referencing that Matthew 6:33. And it's true. We want to bring the ways of God, the kingdom of God, and serve people here the way that He actually would if He was physically walking among them. And so you're doing that to the best of your ability. It's making a difference. Keep shining your light. Thank you for being our special guest today.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you for your work.
You guys are valued. You matter. Your story's not over yet, no matter what season you're going through. It's not over yet. You got to see today. By the grace of God, you'll get to see Him tomorrow. Don't give up. Hang in there. Brighter days are coming. Appreciate each one of you. Until next time, God bless.